In this Yowza.com Volcano Update No. 1, we will focus on current events related to the Winter of Ash projection offered by the guides and being in it for the species. The universe speaks. We'll begin with a Winter of Ash overview to introduce the essential concepts of this projection. Following that, we'll take a closer look at what is happening in our world today in terms of Winter of Ash science. Although the Winter of Ash projection is for the Western Pacific, the consequences are global in scale. For this reason, we'll then look ahead using Winter of Ash projections to see how this cataclysmic event will affect each and every one of us. The guides tell us the Winter of Ash will happen in a time of early winter, but what is most important about this event is that it heralds the beginning of a tribulation timeline lasting years. With that in mind, let's begin with our Winter of Ash overview. The Winter of Ash event is described in a channel reading with the guide Carlos, and through technical channeling readings with Adriana, a professional psychic. In a channeled reading titled "Destiny Comes to Those Who Listen and Fate Finds the Rest," Carlos tells us, "The onset of the tribulation began decades ago, so the onset of human awareness is a more accurate measure of the events that have long been unfolding and building dramatically in recent years. What remains to be seen for humanity are signs of momentous change. Occurrences so dire and unusual they command the focus of even the most reluctant souls. This event shall be a volcanic eruption in the western Pacific Ocean region of the planet. It will send great plumes of ash into the atmosphere that will disrupt the weather and the comings and goings of humankind in profound and noticeable ways. Commerce and trade, along with air travel and security, will be impacted as a consequence. People will begin to awaken in greater numbers to the cosmic warnings that have been ever present for quite some time." In the technical readings with Adriana, included in that same chapter, the guides tell us that the approach of the Planet X system towards the core of our own solar system will only play a minor role in the Winter of Ash event. According to the guides, the principal causality is what is called a galactic superwave. These galactic superwaves emanate from the center of our solar system once every 13,000 years. This phenomena is well described by physicist Paul LaViolette in his book, Earth Under Fire. For more information, Yowza.com subscribers can download his January 2007 interview with Marshall titled, "Is the Mayan Calendar Based on Catastrophic Galactic Superwave Cycles?" It is important to remember that what brought the Mayan civilization to its knees was not a one-day event such as the one many expected on December 21, 2012. Rather, it was a lengthy period of time resulting in the catastrophic earth changes that caused the failure of the Mayan civilization. For most, this is hard to imagine because we live in a modern age where we are confident that we have corralled nature in a way that makes it orderly and predictable to us. However, what the Mayans were really telling us is that the universe is not unfolding at the speed of human expectations. Therefore, given the cataclysmic projections of the guides in being in it for the species, we need to see the present state of our world as it is, with a close focus on Winter of Ash science. In the past few months, there has been a troubling increase in the number of newly active volcanoes and eruptions globally, and especially along the Ring of Fire. Consequently, some experts believe the Ring of Fire is going to become increasingly active with more violent eruptions. In Chapter 3 of Being in It for the Species, the guides not only draw our attention to the Ring of Fire region, they draw it to a very specific area within that region. Here you see the Winter of Ash region of volcanism, where the guides tell us we will experience multiple eruptions in the western Pacific, above and below the equator, to include Mount Fuji and Krakatoa. The resulting ash streams will cause economic and political chaos in the area and spread out across nearly every nation that borders the Ring of Fire. Indications that suggest the Earth is building towards a Winter of Ash event are described in an article on Yowza.com titled "The Winter of Ash Cometh." It features a volcanism dataset for the Winter of Ash region covering the period August 27, 2014 through to September 16, 2014. This data was obtained from a Smithsonian Institution website, which hosts weekly summaries of volcanic activity in cooperation with the USGS. In this program, we will examine the subsequent data reported on this site for the period September 17, 2014 through to October 14, 2014, with a summary of the activity for the weeks of September 17th, September 30th, October 1, and October 8. While these Smithsonian weekly reports are global, in this program we'll focus on the data for just 3 countries: Indonesia, Japan, and the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia. During this period, Indonesia experienced 16 weeks of volcanic activity that involved 7 different volcanoes, and as of October 14, 2014, 2 of these volcanoes are currently active. In a somewhat surprising uptick, Japan experienced 21 weeks of volcanic activity that involved 7 different volcanoes, and as of October 14, 2014, 2 of these volcanoes are currently active. Topping the list is Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, with 22 weeks of volcanic activity involving 6 different volcanoes, and as of October 14, 2014, 3 of these volcanoes are currently active. When we look at the overall activity for Indonesia, Japan, and Kamchatka in the Winter of Ash region, we see 59 weeks of volcanic activity involving 20 different volcanoes, and as of October 14, 2014, 7 of these volcanoes are currently active. No wonder many experts are beginning to express the opinion that the Ring of Fire is just getting started. Again, while the guides tell us the approach of the Planet X system only plays a minor role in these volcanic trends, the principal driver is the galactic superwave emanating from the center of our solar system, as described by physicist Paul LaViolette in his book Earth Under Fire. The consequence of this is the heating of our planet's core, generating magma movement. Assuming this is the case, the consequences of a galactic superwave must be global in scale as opposed to regional. This raises a crucial question. Is there similar volcanic activity outside of the Winter of Ash region as well? With this in mind, let's take a look at current events for the period August 29, 2014 through to October 23, 2014, to see if a smaller yet powerful eruption could precede the Winter of Ash projection event. We do this because towards the end of our research for the book, the guides mentioned that the Winter of Ash would be preceded by a fire starter event. They did not define it more closely, so it was not included in the book. Yet our research team has since wondered, what could it be? Then one possible answer popped up in late August of this year. On August 29th, Barda Bunga erupted and has not slowed its eruption now some 6 weeks later. This is critical because impending volcanic activity is typically preceded by increased earthquake swarms, such as the Bardabunga swarms. And once Bardabunga erupted, things began happening across the globe in rapid succession, to wit: August 29, Mount Tavarer in New Guinea erupted violently. September 3, ash plumes are seen from the air on both Stromboli and Etna. September 18, Mount Mayon in the Philippines started with a soft eruption, and a greater eruption is predicted by the science community. September 25, Popocatépetl experienced a double explosion. September 26, increased activity of earthquakes is seen at Long Valley, California. Although no eruption is expected, this activity is significant. September 19th through to the 26th, the Sheveluch volcano in central Kamchatka, Russia, began erupting, with extra strong explosions on the 24th. September 26, the Copihu volcano in central Chile reported increased steam with ash. September 27, Mount Ontake in Japan erupted without any warning, causing the death of at least 55 hikers on a pilgrimage to a historic shrine. October 5, Mount Sinabung in Indonesia erupted violently. October 6, the Luatobi volcano in Indonesia reportedly showed increased activity with a low-level ash plume. October 8, the Poas volcano in Costa Rica had a strong phreatic eruption from the hot lake in Poas. October 21, seismic activity increased at the twin volcanoes of Nevado de Chiles and Cerro de Maisqueira, rising the threat level to orange. It is important to note that this volcano in Ecuador has not erupted for 160,000 years, and it is now feared it may erupt. October 22. Officials warn that the Mount Sinabung eruption may last indefinitely. October 24. Mount Aoyama in southern Japan started showing signs of activity. The possibility of a small eruption is likely and worrisome, as there is a nuclear power plant in the vicinity. However, the most unsettling October surprise was an announcement by scientists in a report published by Science that researchers have mapped the most accurate study yet of our ocean floors, and their findings reveal thousands of previously unknown ocean floor volcanoes. A lurking threat, the guides warn us, will amplify future cataclysms throughout the coming tribulation period. With that in mind, we now move on to the Winter of Ash projections to answer the one question that is no doubt on everyone's mind. If this happens, what will it mean for me and my loved ones? In Chapter 3 of Being in It for the Species, Harbinger Events, the guide Carlos tells us, "This event shall be a volcanic eruption in the western Pacific Ocean region of the planet. It will send great plumes of ash into the atmosphere that will disrupt the weather and the comings and goings of humankind in profound and noticeable ways. Commerce and trade, along with air travel and security, will be impacted as a consequence." What we can draw from this reading is that while the Winter of Ash is a regional disaster, it nonetheless portends global implications. One example of that is what happened after the 3/11 earthquake and tsunami that struck Japan. A global consequence of that disaster for Japan's global trading partners were disruptions in their just-in-time manufacturing systems. This is because just-in-time manufacturers are dependent on suppliers who can manufacture to order and then fulfill these orders via air freight in a timely and expedient manner. When just-in-time supplier factories are closed by a disaster, the economic consequences are quickly felt, as they were following 3/11. However, the winter of ash event projected by the guides will be many times worse than 3/11, and they warn us that the financial markets of the world will reel, taking great losses as supply chains are disrupted and valuable companies and airlines begin going out of business. The long-term economic impact of the winter of ash will be substantial because it will ground entire fleets of cargo jets for months. This is because air-breathing jet engines and volcanic ash are a recipe for disaster, not only for civilian jets, but for military jets as well. And here we see sharp geopolitical downsides for America. The Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean region on our planet, and this is why naval air power is essential in this area of the world, along with land-based heavy bombers. But if America cannot put these aircraft into the air, our leaders will have to think twice before they put boots on the ground. Ergo, the winter of ash will not only have economic consequences for America, it will also change the balance of power in the region, resulting in an outbreak of regional resource wars. What causes these wars? Not only will aviation be impacted, so will be the ability of these nations in the winter of ash region to feed themselves. Ashfall will lay waste to crops in the fields, and the hardships will be felt by man and beast alike. But it will be the small farmers who will shoulder the brunt of the damage. Conversely, the huge companies that now dominate the world's food systems and who control very large shares of the international market for grains, fertilizers, pesticides, and seeds will reap windfall profits. So for those of you who are worried about your market investments and are interested in profiting from the suffering of others, you might want to examine future investment possibilities with companies like Cargill, Nestle, Monsanto, ConAgra, and Archer Daniels Midland. Needless to say, American corporate farms will step up to the demands of nations in the ash-affected region and will plant from fence post to fence post. However, where will much of these harvests go? They will go where they can command the highest prices. Given that these large multinationals have been effective in destroying family farming in America, what does that mean for each of us? It means enjoy the days of plenty while you can, because they will be followed by days of not so much plenty, and eventually, well, you get the idea. Along with that will come sticker shock as grocery prices soar to record highs. This will be an added burden for families in the mainstream, but for seniors and families in low-income brackets who rely on food stamp programs, it will be a nightmare. This is when the guides tell us that all across the globe, people will begin to have prophetic dreams, visions, and epiphanies in vast numbers. So much so that mockery and ridicule will not suppress the trend. Yes, it will be a time of hardship, but the guides also tell us that it will usher in a new age of global awareness and spiritual awakening. In fact, a few are already experiencing these prophetic dreams, as demonstrated in this video recently posted by YouTuber EarthShiftX, and shown here with his permission. In this video, EarthShiftX recreates his dream using a live capture of his digital paint program. We were immediately impressed with this video because it accurately depicts the Days of Darkness event projected by the guides in Being in It for the Species. The Days of Darkness projection event occurs towards the end of the tribulation timeline and precedes the pole shift event, which is also described in the book. To learn more about the Winter of Ash event projection made by the guides in Being in It for the Species, visit beinginitforthespecies.com or yowza.com. In this yowza.com Volcano Update number 1, we will focus on current events related to the Winter of Ash projection offered by the guides in Being in It for the Species, The Universe Speaks. We'll begin with a Winter of Ash overview to introduce the essential concepts of this projection. Following that, we'll take a closer look at what is happening in our world today in terms of Winter of Ash science. Although the Winter of Ash projection is for the Western Pacific, the consequences are global. Global in scale. For this reason, we'll then look ahead using Winter of Ash projections to see how this cataclysmic event will affect each and every one of us. The guides tell us the Winter of Ash will happen in a time of early winter, but what is most important about this event is that it heralds the beginning of a tribulation timeline lasting years. With that in mind, let's begin with our Winter of Ash overview.